So I'm a nun. I was gonna be Anne Boleyn, but it turns out that I'm poor. If you didn't know, Anne Boleyn costumes are extremely expensive. Like thousands of dollars and expensive. There are like $30 ones, but they look like shit. So if I'm gonna be Anne Boleyn, I'm gonna be Anne Boleyn. It's gonna happen next year. Trust. Okay, today we're telling ghost stories, so I have a candle and a lighter. We're gonna light the candle. I don't know how to use a lighter. I did it. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Should we make a wish? I feel like we should. I wish that stars would uncancel Becoming Elizabeth and renew it for a second season. Do you see the smoke? So, I wouldn't say that I believe in ghosts. I also wouldn't say that I'm a non-believer, but most of these stories, they're not real. Shocker. Most of them were probably made up by the Victorians. Very ghoulish people they were. The first story we're going to start with is about the ghost of Catherine Howard, who is a very popular Tudor ghost, you could say. She is said to haunt the haunted gallery at Hampton Court Palace. As legend goes, Catherine supposedly ran down this corridor to find Henry VIII and beg him for mercy. Residents have reported hearing screams from the corridor, and a guard claimed to have seen a hand knocking on one of the doors. A hand which wore a ring he thought looked very similar to the ring Catherine wears in her portrait. Like, I mean, I guess it's kind of a unique looking ring. It's not. There's no, you couldn't like see that and be like, that's Catherine Howard's ring. You couldn't do that. I guess, or he just pays immaculate attention to detail. People have reported feeling uneasy in the corridor, with certain spots feeling colder than others, and some people even fainting. I would faint too if I got to see that immaculate, beautiful Tudor family portrait. Catherine of Aragon's ghost supposedly haunts Kimbledon Castle, where she died in 1536. She's said to walk the hallways, and because the floor levels have changed since she died, when she walks, the upper part of her body floats on the floor, and the lower half of her body hangs from the ceiling below. That's so fucking sad. Hasn't she been through enough? Like, I've never heard of a ghost not being able to, like, adapt to new floor levels. I've never heard, is that a thing in the paranormal world? Jane Seymour is said to haunt Hampton Court Palace, where she died in 1537, 12 days after giving birth to her son, Edward VI. She appears on the Silver Stick Staircase, the staircase that led to the room she gave birth and died in. One version of the story is that Jane is looking for her son, and another version has Jane unable to move on from her guilty conscience about what happened to Anne Boleyn. Jane doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't give a fuck. She took the ring, she said the vows, she said I do, she doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't care. In 2015, a man took a photo while on a visit to Hampton Court Palace. It wasn't until later that he noticed that in the photo he'd taken, there was what looked like a girl on the balcony. He supposedly sent the picture to the palace, and they told him that a security guard had seen a ghost of a girl in that same spot. It was then speculated online that the girl in the photo is the ghost of Catherine Howard. I mean, it definitely looks like a person in the picture. I feel like it's just a person. And why is it Catherine? It could be anybody. It could be Jane. Why does it have to be Catherine? Also, in 2015, there was another ghost claimed to have been caught on camera at Hampton Court Palace by two 12-year-old girls. That looks like a coat rack. You know what it looks like? You know in the movies when there's like two kids and one's on the bottom and one gets on the shoulders of the other one and they put on a trench coat to make themselves look like an adult? That's what it looks like. I think that's what this is. I found on Reddit that it's from one of those apps where you take a picture and it puts like a fake ghost in there, you know? And it looks weird like that because it glitched or something because of the woman in the background, and it does kind of look like her hair if you look at it. I love the idea that two 12-year-old girls fooled the Hampton Court Palace staff and Lucy Worsley because she wrote the article on it. In 2008, a woman claimed to have caught the ghost of Henry VIII on camera at Salisbury Hall. Why does it look like him though? Like, it actually does look like him. Like, It's just his floating head. That would be terrifying. Catherine Parsons has been seen at Sudley Castle, the place where she died, wandering around in a green dress. A maid who worked at the castle said that she once saw a woman in a green dress looking out of a window, and she thought the woman was an artist who was working in the castle that day, but she later found out that the artist was in a different part of the castle at the time. An unexpected ghost is that of a woman named Sybil Penn, who was a nurse to a young Edward VI. She also served Mary I and nursed Elizabeth I while she had smallpox, resulting in her catching the disease and dying. Sybil's tomb in the chapel at Hampton Court Palace was disturbed in 1829 when the chapel was renovated. After this is when her haunting is said to have began, and her ghost is referred to as the Grey Lady. In one of the apartments at Hampton Court, a scratching and whirring noise would be heard behind the walls, and when the wall was removed to see what the disturbance was, an old spinning wheel was found on the other side. I'm not sure what the idea is here. Is she just spinning the wheel? Is that what it is? I don't know, I guess that's scary. I don't know. Also, why would they remove an entire wall just to see what the noise was? Maybe it was a rat. Do you ever think, maybe they have rats? Being the man who built it, it only makes sense for Cardinal Wolsey to be haunting Hampton Court Palace. In 1966, a visitor wrote in the guest book that they enjoyed a performance that was held that day, but that they had an unpleasant experience with the actor playing Cardinal Wolsey. There's just one problem. Cardinal Wolsey wasn't a character in the play. I love this so much. This one is actually kind of scary, and I think this one is real. I believe this one. This is the one I'm choosing to believe because I really hope it's real. I also wonder what Cardinal Wolsey's ghost did to this person that they had to write it down in the guest book. The most famous Tudor ghost is, of course, that of Anne Boleyn. Her ghost is said to haunt many places, including Hampton Court Palace, where her ghost has been seen walking slowly and sadly and wearing a blue dress. Anne's ghost also supposedly haunts Windsor Castle, where she's been seen standing in a window at the Dean's Cloister. It is said that on every May 19th, the anniversary of her execution, Anne returns to Blickling Hall, which once belonged to her father, Thomas Seymour, in a carriage driven by a headless coachman and drawn by 6 headless horses. Of course they're fucking headless. She sits in the carriage wearing a white dress with her detached head in her lap. In another version of the story, it's her father, Thomas Boleyn, who is the coachman. George Boleyn's ghost, Anne Boleyn's brother, has also been seen being dragged across the land of Blickling Hall by 4 headless horses. Why? What the? That's actually funny. I wish I could see that. In a more wholesome matter, Anne is said to return to her childhood home, Hever Castle, for every Christmas Eve. Perhaps the most obvious place for Anne's ghost to be is at the place of her execution, the Tower of London. In 1817, a guard patrolling the White Tower supposedly had a heart attack and died after encountering Anne Boleyn's ghost on a staircase. I wish that were me. In 1864, a guard patrolling the Queen's house said he saw a white, misty figure with no face standing in the courtyard, wearing a Tudor-style dress and a French hood. Slay. He went and confronted the figure, and when it didn't respond, he thrusted his bayonet at it. But the bayonet went through the figure, and then there was a flash, and he fainted. When the guard was chastised for sleeping while on watch, he used this story as an excuse. I'm sure he did. And another guard backed him up, saying that he saw the whole thing happen from a window. Also in the 19th century, these fucking Victorians, man, I swear. The captain of the guard was said to have noticed a light burning in the chapel where Anne was buried. He placed a ladder up against the building to look into one of the windows. Spectre-stricken describes the encounter in their 1882 book, Ghostly Visitors. Slowly down the aisle moved a stately procession of knights and ladies, attired in ancient costumes, and in front walked an elegant female, whose face was averted from him, but whose figure greatly resembled the one he had seen in reputed portraits of Anne Boleyn. After having repeatedly paced the chapel, the entire procession together with the light disappeared. If you saw Anne Boleyn walking down the street, would you recognize her? I would, because I'm different, but I don't think this man would. Also, he said he didn't see her face, so he recognized her from her body? Sir? And now, for the only piece of video footage of a Tudor ghost that I could find, this is a piece of security footage put out by Hampton Court Palace themselves, claiming to have captured the ghost of Henry VIII in 2003. According to the palace security, one specific fire door kept opening for 3 days in a row during the winter of 2003. On the second day is when they caught the ghost on camera. Supposedly, a visitor also wrote in the guest book that she had seen a ghost in that same area. I hate to say it. It looks like him. That's a Henry VIII build if I've ever seen one. But where's he going? Like, what business does he have? Oh, I guess he opened the doors and then closed them. So he's just being a dick. Oh, checks out. I'm pretty sure what's going on here is that the palace made this video and released it to attract tourists. But it wasn't released during Halloween time, which is weird. But I guess that would have been too obvious. But I do love the idea that Henry's ghost is just so bored that he's going around the palace opening doors for attention. That's what you get, bitch.